Welcome back to Dynamics Unplugged and another edition of our Dynamics A to Z in D365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. Today we're back with the letter D and we're going to be talking about direct deliveries. So I'm going to start off by creating a sales order for a customer, and the way we're going to fulfill this sales order is by drop shipping the goods from one of our vendors. And we'll talk about some of the transactions and some of the settings and things that happen during that process in D365. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll create a new sales order for this customer, Drew's Brews. And it's important to pay attention to some of the information that populates as I create this basic sales order. One of them is the customer address here in Nashua, New Hampshire. And then the site and warehouse as well. I'm going to put in a default warehouse that this item ships out of, which is warehouse 24. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. I've gone ahead and I've created my sales order. We're going to add our item to this order. So here's Gray IPA. We're going to ship 300 liters. And we can see our warehouse there of 24. Now, I don't have enough in my inventory to ship out of my warehouse, or perhaps I want to drop ship this for whatever reason from one of my vendor warehouses and have them supply it. So we have all the pricing in place to buy it from that vendor and still sell it to our customers and handle that triangular relationship. Now we want to walk through the process of actually creating that dropship order. So under the sales order tab, I have three options actually at the top of the sales order action pane here: service order, purchase order, where I could actually create a purchase order to get this item from a vendor, but have it shipped into my warehouse first and then reship it out on the sales order. So that first option of purchase order is really just creating a marked transaction, more or less, for directly fulfilling this customer sales order. Direct delivery is going to allow me to create that link and just drop ship it directly from the vendor to the customer address. So when I click this button, all the lines on my sales orders show up to say which orders or which items and lines I actually want to create a direct delivery for. I can include all. In my case, I just have one line, so I would select it here. I can also determine, do I want to transfer that delivery address? I want to take the customer's address in Nashua, New Hampshire, and make that the delivery address on my purchase order, because my vendor is not shipping it to me, they are shipping it to my customer. Do we want to search for purchase agreements? Are we editing anything from the line itself, whether that's the quantity or price? And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And we shouldn't at this point expect an error, and it has to do with my warehouse, which is why I purposely left it as warehouse 24. And right away we do get that error. So Drew's Gray IPA direct delivery is not able to process for warehouse 24 because it's warehouse management enabled. When you're using warehouse management, that has a whole different configuration and set of rules that determines different data that goes through transactional lines, like the location on a sales order line or a purchase order line, and how packing slips get posted. So for direct delivery or drop ship scenarios, you must use a warehouse that is not warehouse management enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here. We're going to go ahead and edit our line and put a different warehouse on it. In my case, I'm going to choose warehouse 21. I'm going to accept that my ship dates and my prices may or may not change, and I'm just going to double check here and make sure I have a location populated, since that will be required for a non-WMS warehouse. And then we'll go ahead and attempt to create our direct delivery again. This time, no immediate error. You can see operation has been completed. Automatic purchase creation for vendor account 000300, purchase order 1705 has been created. You have a reference on the line itself to that direct delivery PO. So here under the line details, under the product tab, I have a reference of the purchase order, the reference type. Additionally, If I go to the General tab under the Action pane, 2 new forms become available. The related orders, this is in the case you have multiple linked orders. You might have a sales order, a purchase order, an intercompany order. We see here that there is a related purchase order to that sales order. And then the other one is the purchase order itself. If I click this related information button, it'll take me directly into the purchase order, which is important because this is where the rest of the transaction really takes place. We're not shipping or fulfilling the sales order directly, so we really will not have any other direct updates on the sales order. What will happen is the vendor will ship the goods, they'll arrive at the customer, and there will need to be a receiving process. So whether that's someone in your organization manually posting those based on the vendor updating that they've shipped it and the customer confirming that it's arrived, or using ASNs or some other message to produce those postings, it will have to be processed. So here we're in the purchase order. The first step, as we all know with purchase orders, is confirming it so that we can initiate the receipt process. So I'm going to imagine that the vendors confirm this, the ship dates are all good, we've gone ahead and confirmed it, a number of days has passed, and now they have shipped it. When the goods arrive at the facility for the customer, that's when we want to go and post the product receipt. Before I do that, we want to go ahead and look at this purchase order header. And what we should see is that the address is that customer address, which is Nashua, New Hampshire, 50 Riverside Avenue. And just to prove we're not tricking you, what would normally happen with a purchase order is the address would be taken from the site or warehouse. If we look at Warehouse 21, there is no default address actually set up, and Site 2's default warehouse or default address, is in Tacoma, Washington. So the customer sales order address that we saw from Drew's Brews in New Hampshire has transferred over to my purchase order header, and that's where the goods will be delivered. So now the goods have shown up at the customer base, and we're going to head and post a product receipt. And our product receipt number, you can see the quantity and where it's being received. And we'll post our product confirmation. We can see the status has now updated to received. And if we go back to our sales order and refresh, you can see the sales order has updated to delivered. So we walked through the creation of direct delivery and how some of the transactional processing is automated based on the fact that we've now linked a purchase order and sales order to prevent somebody from having to receive a PO and post a packing slip and do double the amount of data entry. So that is today's entry on D in Dynamics A to Z F&SC, and next time we'll be back with the letter E. Have a great weekend, everybody.